So verse number 43 is where we had stopped, where the student is being assured by the teacher.
Swamiji, sorry to interrupt.
42.
42.
42, yeah. So 42 is where we had stopped. And so the teacher is being told, is a loving advice, that what should the teacher do when the student comes with so much of anxiety to know the self and go beyond this ocean of samsara. The person is going through a lot of agitation. So it was said that Vidwan satasma upasatti me yushe. So Vidwan here, like the other day somebody asked the question, that is correct. Vidwan here refers to the master, not to the student, because it is in first case. Tasmai is the student. To the person who has come, to the student who has come, Mumukshave sadhu yathokta karane, who is a mumukshu, who has intense desire for liberation and who is ready to follow these instructions of the scriptures. Prashanta chittaya, relatively the mind is quiet because he has cultivated shama, dhamma, uparama. These qualities have been cultivated. Shamanvitaya, tattvopadesham kripayaiva kuryat. The upadesha of the supreme truth. So the solution that the Shastra gives is not a relief method. When the student has come with adequate qualification and the person is demanding the cure that the Shastra also tells is Tattva Upadesha. So the teacher must give the knowledge of the self because the student is already prepared. So this is the method of the Upanishads, where we see that when a Uttam Adhikari has come, then Brahmagyan is given first. The subtlest knowledge is given at the beginning itself, so that that person realizes and the work is over. If the person doesn't realize, if the person is not an Adhikari, what was said earlier, Adhikarinam Ashaste, on the qualifications depend whether we will realize the truth or not. Truth is our nature now also. But why is it that I'm not experiencing? Because the adequate tuning of the mind is not there. So in case the student is not an Uttam Adhikari, then the teacher will explain through logic for a Madhyam Adhikari. For a Manda Adhikari, the teacher will give methods of Upasana, where the teacher will try and tell the student to cultivate the qualifications, become more single-pointed. Then the Tattva Upadesha will happen. And for a Adham Adhikari, whose mind also is not single-pointed yet, the teacher may say, practice certain values, do some karma yoga. So depending on the different stages of preparation of a student, appropriate steps have to be taken by the teacher. So here the Shruti is, here the scripture is saying to the Guru that when these qualifications are there and such a student has come, Tattvopadesham kripaya eva kuryat. See, these qualifications are a necessary requirement to experience the truth. These are not to psychologically discriminate between the various levels of seekers. This is not to deny self-knowledge, but it is to prepare a person to attain self-knowledge. Unfortunately, when we don't understand this aspect, then we start saying that there's a discrimination happening. And if there's a discrimination happening, that is anyway not justified. But a certain distinction has to be made. Distinction and discrimination are two different things. Psychological discrimination is not acceptable. To say that, somebody is from a lower caste and we will not give the knowledge to that person, that is psychological discrimination. That is not acceptable. So many saints have come from different backgrounds. The qualification is there, they get the knowledge. Where they are born, in which community, in which caste, in which gender, doesn't matter. The real adhikara is those qualities mentioned, 10 qualities, 9 qualifications plus bhakti. So if somebody has all the 10, then the teacher must give tattva upadesh. One should not delay. Preparatory means are not required for such a person. One should not give that. But if somebody doesn't have, then the person must be given the adequate guidance to cultivate those qualities. So people like Shankaracharya ji, when they wrote this Vivek Chudamani, also is so that we come to understand those qualifications, we start cultivating those qualifications. This is not a book for Uttam Adhikari. For Uttam Adhikari, one has to go straight to the Upanishads. They don't need to go through all this study of Vivek Chudamani, and they have already done that. They are already living those values, those qualifications. So the teacher makes a distinction, not a discrimination. Because if the student is given also the highest knowledge, if the qualification is not there, person will not realize. And hence, this is a very important aspect. Now comes the actual advice of the student, actual advice of the teacher. 43rd verse. Shri Guru Ruvacha Ma Bhaishta Vidvans Tavanastyapayaha Samsara Sindhos Taranestyupayaha Yenaiva Yata Yatayosya Param Tameva Margam Tava Nirdishami. So here he says, the Guru assures the teacher, our student, Ma Bhaishta Vidvan. Now here the word Vidvan is to the student. That, O learned one, don't be scared. Ma Bhaishta Vidvan. Tavanastya Payaha. There is no danger for you. Why? Samsara Sindhos Tarane Asti Upayaha. To cross over this ocean of samsara, there is a way. Yenaiva yata yatayosya param. That path by which so many seekers of the past, so many yatis of the past, they have crossed over. Tameva margam tava nirdeshami. That very path I will indicate to you. Very beautiful words. So first he says, he assures what the scripture had said. The Guru is demonstrating that. The scripture had said that, no, that dadyada bhitim sahasa mahatmana. Give, grant fearlessness to this student who has come. Make the person assured that there is a way. The student doesn't know the way, so the student is very confused and very agitated. Because whatever the student knew, the person has tried, the emptiness doesn't go. On the contrary, it may increase. So the student is in an agitated state. So first thing is to assure the student. So here we find Ma Bhaishti. He says, don't be scared. See, when a person is in this state, then only one knows what it is actually to go through this. Samsara dukkha, when we experience, not the disappointment of not getting what we want, or somebody telling me something and I getting hurt. That's very small. That is my ego, and according to my vasanas, if something is conducive, I like it. Something is not conducive, I don't like it. Samsara dukkha is whether I like it or not, either ways I am finite. I don't experience fulfillment. So no matter what one achieves, one is still limited. And that sense of jiva bhav, that sense of limitation, brings with it incompleteness, insecurity, fear, anxiety, all that. So a person who is going through this, when one goes to the teacher, it is like a person who is suffering terribly with some disease. At the physical level, there is so much of pain in the body. The moment one has that pain, if one tells that person that, you must take a long-term treatment, First and foremost, the person needs some relief. Then the treatment can be, the long-term treatment can be done, because otherwise that person's suffering is so much, the person may not be able to follow their long-term treatment. Some relief has to be given first. Some method by which pain gets reduced. In the same way here, the agitation has to reduce first. So Ma Bhaisht, he assures him, don't be worried, don't be scared. Tavanastya Paya, there is no danger for you. What is the danger? The danger always is that before we realize the truth, any moment the body can fall. The fear is there that life may end. So he says there is no danger for you, because even if that life ends, law of karma will follow. And where we had left, we continue from there. We don't lose any effort. Psychological impact continues because the same mind is going to the next body also. That is one aspect. Then also that there is no need to fear. There is no danger for you because you have come to the right place now. And the path is known. Fear also arises when I don't know. I have tried everything. I don't know now what is the solution. So there is fear and anxiety. So he says, don't be scared. There is no danger now. The ignorance is the cause of that fear and danger. He says there is no danger now because you have come to the right place. Samsara sindhos tarane asti upaya. To cross over this ocean of samsara, there is a way. Apaya is danger, upaya is the way. When we know the way and when we have the faith that the way is proper, to assure the student that the way is proper, he says many people have walked through this path and they have reached the goal. So don't be scared. To cross over this samsara, there is a way out. See, even at the gross level, if we take this analogy of samsara, if somebody is drowning in samsara, in the ocean, to cross the ocean by one's own effort, very difficult. Almost impossible it is. A huge lake one can cross, a river one can cross. If one is drowning in the middle of the ocean, how much can one swim? How will one cross? That's at the physical level. What to talk at the emotional level when we are drowning in the ocean of insecurities, ignorance, fear, anxieties? How will one cross? That is the anxiety of the student. So the teacher says, no, there is a way whereby the ocean of samsara can be crossed. And the way is very inspiring. We'll see what he says. So samsara sindhos tarane asti upaya. There is a way to cross this ocean of samsara. And that way is not a new way. So you are not a guinea pig on whom this is being experimented. You are going to be walking the same path with so many yatis of the past. So yati means one who is a self-controlled person. One meaning of yati is that. One who has mastered the senses. So the word yati itself is actually the path, the preparation, to cross over the samsara. One is the self-control, the student who has controlled all the senses, the seeker who has controlled all the senses is a yati. And second meaning of yati is yatnam karoti, one who is striving, one is putting the purushartha to overcome this sense of limitation. So the people who have lived in self-control, who have put their efforts to go cross over this samsara, those people, the path which they have followed, that is the path I'm going to tell you, because they have reached. Yenaiva yata yatayo asya param. They have gone across, they have gone beyond. From the way in which they live, from the way in which they experience that Supreme and they share with the people. It's very clear that they have gone across. So that path, which is a time-tested path, is the path which I am going to tell you. It is not a path which is discovered by the teacher. It is a proper time-tested path. It has the scriptural validity also. So that this is not a philosophy of that individual. You know, in one lecture, one person got up, Gurudev's lecture, he got up. And he very boldly, he asked that we don't want to hear what Krishna is saying, what Gita is saying, what scripture is saying. We want to know what Chinmaya is saying. And Gurudev straight away replied, he said, Chinmaya has to say nothing apart from the scriptures. There is no Chinmaya philosophy. What I am imparting is the knowledge of Vedanta, which is given in the Shastra. That is a very important aspect. Gurudev brought out the knowledge of the scriptures, the time-tested wisdom, in the innovative method that is possible. Like he created the whole BMI chart, a study scheme. He wrote so many books, Kindle Life, Self-Unfoldment, many basic books he wrote, like how Shankaracharya ji wrote books like Tattva Bodh, Atma Bodh, Vivek Chudamani. He also wrote books. So the great masters of the past, they have always given the time-tested method to the students. It is not their own philosophy. Shankara didn't have his own philosophy. He propagated Advaita philosophy, which is already found in the Vedas. Unfortunately, some people think that Advaita was founded by Shankaracharya. No. Advaita has existed even before Shankaracharya. It's a method. It is given in the Upanishads. But one of the greatest propounders of Advaitic philosophy is Shankaracharya. And so some people have equated Advaita is equal to Shankaracharya. So Shankara didn't have his own philosophy. Tapovan Maharaj didn't have his own philosophy. Vivekananda didn't have his own philosophy. The time-tested knowledge of the scriptures is what the student is given. Because that has helped the teacher also to cross over. Many seekers of the past have followed the path and crossed over. So it's a very unique aspect. Once, when one comes onto the spiritual path, it is very subtle. It is each one's vasanas which will manifest. So there is no as though clear-cut path. And yet there is a path. A standard method to cross over the ocean of samsara is there. But each one walking the path will encounter different obstacles, different challenges. It is not like a path where all of us go. Suppose we go from Mumbai to Pune. Then there will be only one food mall which comes on the way. Milestones which come are common to all. But when one is walking the spiritual path may be given by the Shastra, but how one is walking the path, what are the subjective challenges, what one encounters, how much time one takes, how person sometimes get distracted, again comes back. So many things are there. So there is a standard path which one walks, which the Shastra gives. And yet the path is different for each person because the vasanas of each person are very different. So this time-tested path is what one has to follow. If our scriptures, they indicate so clearly, this is the path. When we go to a teacher, the teacher gives us the Shastra, gives us the time-tested knowledge. That is how the student becomes independent. The map is given to us, destination is known to us, map is there, path is there. Now one has to walk. One doesn't need any other guidance after that. One just has to walk. This is the path to become independent. This is what a proper teacher will do. Give the Shastra in the hands of the student, make the student understand it. The student is independent after that, one will walk. On the other hand, there are people who will not follow the time-tested path, who will not give the scriptural knowledge, and who will have their own philosophy. The student becomes dependent on the teacher. After the teacher goes, student doesn't know what to do. And sometimes it also happens that they condemn the time-tested path. That's a very strange thing. The time-tested path using which many people have walked, that path is condemned. No need of scripture. I don't know what is written in the scripture. I only know what is present now. This life is what I'm concerned about. What is manifest, what is present here. What was written in the scriptures thousands of years back. What is the validity? What is the proof it is real? Those type of things when somebody says is very easy. It's very appealing to anybody. But one has to think a little bit that what is the deeper implication of that? The path which is time tested, which thousands of people have walked and reached the destination, which is a universally applicable path even today, because it is not about changing circumstances, it is about changeless truth. And if I want that changeless truth, this is the method to transcend attachment to the BMI. There is no other method. The crux once I get, and different ways by which, the methods by which the scriptures indicate, so many different types of seekers are there. The scripture indicates a method for all different types of seekers, whether you are an atheist, a non-believer, an agnostic, or a person with little faith, or a person with maximum faith, whatever be your adhikara. There is something or the other given for every single person. There is nobody who is rejected. Even you may be a worst of sinners. The Gita gives that beautiful verse. Apichet sudurachara bhajate mam ananya bhak sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito visa. The person may be, as Gurudev said, double PhD in crime, has done all types of wrong things. Sudurachara. But if that person has decided to transform and walk the path, the scripture gives guidance even to that person. So the knowledge that we have is a very sacred knowledge, time-tested knowledge, and a knowledge which has been preserved by the Guru Shishya Parampara, which has been testified. When somebody says, what is the proof all this is true? The lives of saints is the biggest proof. How they have lived, what state they have experienced, and what the followers have been able to get guidance and walk the path and achieve the truth. So many of these, they testify what the scripture says. Hence, a guru worth the salt will always make the disciple independent by giving scriptural knowledge. Gurudev used to insist that we must have the book with us in our hands. When he is doing a Gita Jnana Yajna, he will announce specifically that each and every person must have the Gita book in one's hand. Because the scripture, when we don't have in our hand, this is what the decadence of the culture has happened, and we as individuals also have got lost. But if the Shastra is in my hand, I have the map, then I will walk. Then I know what is written in the map. Nobody can take me for a ride. Unfortunately, when we have not gone into our scriptures, even today there are so many discussions that people do without knowing what is exactly written in the scripture. Forget the Upanishads and the Gita. Even Ramayana and Mahabharata, we have not opened those books. What is written there and what we know is sometimes very different. For example, the Dhobi incident is not mentioned in Valmiki Ramayana, it is not mentioned in Tulsi Ramayana, it is not mentioned in Kamba Ramayana. It is a folklore which has got added later on. The whole episode happens in a very different way. So we don't know what is written there. Even that very popular thing about the Gita which goes around. What did you bring? What belongs to you? You will not carry anything forward with you. What was yesterday? What was yesterday with somebody else is today with you. It will be with somebody else tomorrow. These are general philosophies which are applicable, but it is not written that way in the Gita. So when we open the scripture and we read, oh, this is what is written here. We have to open up to that. This is what is the authentic, proper, what is written in the Shastra is this. So that wrong understanding, misunderstanding, all that goes away. And the person starts walking the path. So, yenaiva yata yatayosya param. Time-tested knowledge of the scriptures, very, very important. One of the qualifications to understand whether somebody is a proper guru or not is whether that person is making the disciple independent. How will that person make him or her independent? By giving the Shastra, by giving time-tested knowledge. A true guru is one who makes that person independent. So, yenaiva yata yatayosya param tameva margam tava nirdeshami. That very path I will indicate to you. So now, when he has said this, how these great masters have walked, what is that path? This verse and the next verse are the words of assurance to the student. Astyupayo mahan kaschit samsara bhaya nashanaha tena tirtva bhavam bodhim paramandandam apsyasi. So he says, Asti upayo mahan kaschit. There is a great way. Samsara bhaya nashanaha. To destroy the fear of samsara. Not to destroy samsara. Samsara in the sense that the world in which we are living, that cannot be destroyed. But the fear that we have, the fear of losing things, the fear of death, the fear of non-acceptance, fear of rejection, so many types of fears, loneliness, all that which we go through in this samsara because of the attachment to the BMI, all those fears, he says there is a great way by which one can destroy all these fears. We don't have to destroy the world. We don't have to destroy our body, mind, intellect. What we have to destroy is the fear. Samsara bhaya nashana. If you remember the 3 steps which we spoke about, that how fear operates. Step number 1 is I don't know. When I don't know, then the mind projects. Step number 2 is what if? That's the projection of the mind. And step number 3 is I can't handle it. So fear operates out of this ignorance, negative imagination, and then I resign, I give up, I escape, try to run away from that fear. To remove the fear, the root cause has to go. Samsara bhaya nashana. And the root cause of fear is ignorance. So that path by which I gain the knowledge even at the relative level. Suppose I want to overcome fear of death. There are 2 aspects to that. One is I must know what happens at the time of death. Second aspect is I must have also the faith that when the scripture says that only body is dropped, the mind, intellect, memory, ego, vasanas, all these continue. I may not have practical experience right now. If I use logic, I can understand that every night I go beyond the body. There is no fear at that time when I'm in the dream state, in deep sleep state. Every night the Shastra gives us the experience also, a glimpse of that experience, that what is it to be beyond the body. The state in which I am in the dream state, that's the astral state. That is the state of existence when we drop the body. Till we get the new body, that astral plane, we are in that thought realm. So Shastra makes us look within and understand, and through knowledge help us to drop the anxiety and then have the faith that what the scripture is saying is true. And that is what I will experience. Look around the lives of people, specific people who have experienced this state when they have gone beyond the body. Then some of them have come back into the body. What do they say? So all that will match the scripture, and then I must do the sadhana to detach. So ignorance has to go, attachment has to go, negative imagination has to go, then the fear goes. And the Shastra has time-tested knowledge to help us to overcome all these. So he says, Mahan kaschit samsara bhayanashana asti upaya. There is a way. Teneva tirtva bhavam bodhin. And by that path, you can cross over this ocean of samsara. Paramanandam apsyasi. And you will experience Param Ananda. What the rishis experienced, the great seekers of the past, they experienced, that you also can experience. So the earlier verse was the faith in the scriptural wisdom, the knowledge given in the scriptures, time-tested knowledge. The second verse here is about faith in yourself, that you also can walk the path and you also will reach the same Paramananda which others have reached. So these two verses are words of assurance by the teacher. Now what is the path? The teacher has said there is a path. The next verse is a beautiful verse, and Gurudev used to tell us to memorize. In brief, he gives the path, that this is what the path is. Vedantartha vicharena jayate jnanam uttamam tenatyantika samsara dukkha nasho bhavatyanu. So he says, Vedantartha vicharena jayate jnanam uttamam. When one reflects on the meaning of Vedanta, what Vedanta is revealing to us, Vedanta Artha, the meaning of Vedanta. Meaning, what is Vedanta telling us about Jiva and Brahman, about I, the individual, and the pure consciousness. Vedanta Artha. Vicharena, by reflecting upon the meaning or the essence of Vedanta, Jayate Jnanam Uttamam. This knowledge will arise, which is supreme knowledge, which will destroy the root cause of samsara bhaya, which is ignorance. So the knowledge of the self will remove the ignorance of the self. That's the root cause which is eliminated. Jayate Jnanam Uttamam. What will happen with that? Tena atyantika samsara dukkha nasha bhavatyanu. Once and for all, the dukkha of samsara will get destroyed. Not a relief method, that little relief we have, and again the dukkha comes back, again we are reminded of the same dukkha, same anxiety. Not like that. Atyantika. Once and for all, it is destroyed. And that's why the Shastra says, Yad gatva na nivartante, tadhama paramam mama. Having gone where, there is no return after that. Meaning one doesn't come back into the realm of ignorance. That state. So now what does this mean? One by one we'll see. Vedanta. So what is Vedanta? The end portion of the Vedas is called as Vedanta. The broad division of every Veda is, so there is Karma Kand, there is Upasana Kand, and there is Jnana Kand. It's a very broad division, not a very rigid division, a very general division. So the Karma Kand is all the ritualistic portions to fulfill desires, live in the society, use karma to get what one wants. Upasana is subtler meditations whereby when a person has gone through the desires, has seen the limitation, has understood that it is temporary, that person wants to turn within. So using Upasana methods, using different practices of single pointedness, concentration, of surrender to the higher, the person purifies the mind, makes it single pointed. With such a mind which is purified, which is single pointed, person turns within through the knowledge of Upanishads and Vedanta. So Upanishads are the knowledge of the self which a student gets by sitting at the feet of a teacher. Upa means near, Ni means with firm conviction, Sad means to sit. To sit there at the feet of the teacher with the firm conviction that happiness is not there in the world and I want to turn within. So I have come to the teacher not only to turn within but to also tell me what is the truth. Who am I? That knowledge which a student gets in the Guru Shishya Parampara, sitting at the feet of the teacher with complete humility and surrender, when that person has got this knowledge, that knowledge is called Upanishad. Shankaracharya ji gives a very beautiful description of this in the Kathopanishad commentary. He says that Upanishad arthena vidya iti uchyate. Knowledge of the self is Upanishad. It's not a book. Book is secondary. Book is only the means. But the knowledge of the self, that is called as Upanishad, which is called as Vedanta. Why is knowledge of the self called Upanishad? Because the word Sad Dhatu has three meanings: Gati, Visharana and Avasadhan. So the knowledge by which our evolution gets speeded up, that is called Gati, by which we go beyond the attachment to the BMI and from human we evolve to experience divine. And it speeds up that evolution very fast. So Gati. Visharana is to destroy our doubts, questions. When we don't know how can we be the truth and there is so much of confusion about that, there are questions that how am I not this body? How is the world not, is an illusion? How can I accept that? So there will be lots of questions. So that which cuts us under our doubts. And Avasadhan, to destroy. It will destroy ignorance. And born out of ignorance is desire, born out of desire is action. Avidya, Kama, Karma. These are the three knots by which we are bound. Our heart, they are called Hridaya Granthi. So through this knowledge, Avidya, Kama and Karma all are destroyed. Because root cause of sorrow is this, Avidya. So that knowledge which helps us to evolve faster and realize the goal, which destroys all our wrong notions and questions, contradictions, and which helps to destroy the root cause of sorrow, which is ignorance. That is called the knowledge of the Upanishad. That is called Brahma Vidya, which is Upanishads. And it is not in the book. It arises in the heart of the student. So from the teacher to the student, when the heart of the teacher has experienced that knowledge, and the student is given that knowledge and it rises in the heart of the student, that is not the knowledge of the Upanishads, which is realization actually. But till one comes to that state of experience, the words which are used to communicate this knowledge, they are written down, they are the scriptures. They are a revelation also. So the student is given this knowledge by the teacher, so the Upanishads use, so the language is used, Sanskrit language is used. The knowledge is given to different people in different language also. There are so many saints in our culture who are from different backgrounds, different states, different mother tongue, and they give the knowledge in that language. So language is only the means. The essence that you are the self, the entire world is an expression of that pure consciousness, that knowledge is Vedanta. Now, what is the solution? The great path that the teacher told the student is that one should reflect upon the essence of this Vedantic knowledge. The essence of Vedantic knowledge is that Jiva and Brahma are one. The individual and the total are essentially one. Like the wave and the ocean are one from the standpoint of water. The water which is in a wave is the same water which is everywhere in the ocean. There is no difference. The difference is only when we identify with the name and the form of the wave. If I see beyond, then I will see only water. So in that way, there is only one pure consciousness, that is the self. And that alone is manifesting as this whole universe. That oneness of Jiva and Brahma, where today I see myself as separate, that oneness is what this knowledge is about. And reflection on that, Vedanta Artha Vicharena, Jayate Jnanam Uttamam. Where will this knowledge arise? In my heart. Through steady reflection, when I already have cultivated those qualifications, then this knowledge will arise. That, oh, this is my true nature. The self-discovery happens. Jayate Jnanam Uttamam. And this Jnanam is called Uttamam Jnanam, supreme knowledge. Because this is the knowledge about the Supreme. This is not the knowledge about some finite things or subjects or materials. It is the supreme knowledge because it is the knowledge of the Supreme, one meaning. The infinite, pure consciousness, which is all pervasive. Number two, it is the knowledge which will remove the root cause of sorrow once and for all, and the person will experience supreme bliss. Because the person becomes one with this knowledge. The knower of Brahman becomes one with Brahman. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. The knower of any other subject doesn't become one with that subject. The knower of physics is separate from physics. The knower of computer is different from the computer. They don't become one. Here the knower of the truth becomes one with the truth. That's the power of this knowledge. The knower of the truth realizes, I am only that truth. Aham Brahma Asmi. Seeking somewhere else all the time. That state of supreme happiness is my nature. So Jayate Jnanam Uttamam. It is supreme knowledge because it's the knowledge of the Supreme. Number two, it leads us to the Supreme because it destroys the root cause of sorrow. Number three, it is that gaining which nothing remains to be gained. That's why it is supreme. Everything else when we gain, something remains to be gained. It is still limited. It is finite. Here it is royal knowledge. It is Raja Vidya it is called. Great knowledge. Supreme knowledge. Because it frees us from all the other dependencies. No more one wants anything. The wanting ends. And it is that knowledge which brings about essential oneness, not divisions. So Jayate Jnanam Uttamam. Supreme knowledge arises in the heart by reflection on Vedanta. How do I reflect? Using logic, which is scriptural logic, and using experiential proof, either in our life or in the life of great masters. Either of that. Actually both, not either. So when we start, as we go along, we will see how to reflect, etc. will also come. How to listen, how to reflect, how to contemplate. So that path, the direct path is this. If you remember, we have done different levels, no? Bahiranga sadhana, antaranga sadhana, param antaranga sadhana, and sakshat sadhana. 4 levels we have done earlier. Bahiranga sadhana is dana, yajna, tapa, karma yoga, bahiranga sadhana. Antaranga sadhana, puja, japa, pranayam, pratyahar. Both these will prepare me for this param antaranga sadhana, which is this: listen, reflect, contemplate. Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana. Because these are subtler than the other two levels. To listen to knowledge of Vedanta, to reflect on it, to contemplate, very subtle. If the earlier two sadhanas are not done, or one is not continuing them even now, the subtlety of the mind and intellect is not there. The person's ability to understand will be very limited then. To understand this self-knowledge, very limited. You know, once a brahmachari, he went to Gurudev and he said that please give me permission, I want to become a parivrajak. He had just completed the course, Vedant course. He had served the center where he was posted for some time. And he wrote to Gurudev that I don't want to do this work, I want to become a parivrajak. Parivrajak means a wandering monk who lives on bhiksha, who thinks about the Lord, who does not have possessions, moves about from one place to other. So it is a different sadhana altogether. Gurudev himself has done that also when he went before his sannyas, when he took up the Chardham Yatra, he went as a parivrajak, he went as a wandering monk. So Gurudev wrote to him that if you wish to do this sadhana, be a parivrajak, do for a short time. Go for a few months or maximum 1 year and come back. There is no greater sadhana than listening, reflection and contemplation. That's what he wrote to him, because this is very subtle and this will directly remove the root cause of sorrow. To prepare myself, if I am doing a sadhana as a wandering monk, etc., then that's a bahiranga sadhana which I can do. And when the sadhana is done of listening, reflecting and contemplation, when it is said here, Jayate Jnanam Uttamam, that is a Sakshat sadhana. That is that Akhandakara Vritti, that special intuitive realization that I am Brahman. That arises in the heart of the student. Jayate Jnanam Uttamam. Tena Atyantika Samsara. With this knowledge, once and for all, the sense of finitude, the sense of jiva bhav, limitation, once and for all goes. It's like the dreamer who has just woken up. When the dreamer has woken up, the dream ends. Limitation of example is if you say that no, but again in the night when we sleep, then we dream. That's the limitation of the example. That's a different dream that happens. Anyways, you cannot go back to the same dream. So the idea is that how once and for all the student, the waker has woken up, the dreamer has woken up, the dream ends once and for all. There is no more the sorrow of the dream, the fear of the dream, the agitation of the dream will never disturb this person, because he realizes that, array, this was a dream and everything in that dream was me only. So in the same way, this person realizes that, oh, everything is an appearance of the same self. What we are experiencing as different right now, that duality is the cause of fear. And duality comes because of identification with the BMI. So ignorance creates that. There is a bhranti that I am separate, you are separate. That bhranti is what creates this bhaya. And when that bhranti is removed, that all of us are one pure consciousness alone, there is only one truth, then that bhaya also goes. So we have here, Vetena Atyantika Samsara Dukkha. Our masters were interested in removing the cause of sorrow once and for all. Dukkhanasho bhavati anu. Instantly it takes place. When somebody asked Ramana Maharshi, how long does it take to realize the truth? Ramana Maharshi said, not even the time taken by you to blink your eye. Not even a fraction of a second. Because it's our own nature. So anu means instantly. As one contemplates on the knowledge of the truth, this knowledge arises in the heart. Once and for all, one goes beyond the cycle of birth and death, the sense of finitude. Remember one thing, it is not, when it is said anu, it does not mean that this will happen as an experience, it is a glimpse, it comes and goes. Glimpses of the truth one has in samadhi avastha because vasana pressure is high, so one again comes out of that. Here, when it is said atyantika samsara, one has got that firm establishment in the truth, and it is not a coming and going experience of the mind. One has transcended the mind, gone beyond vasanas and ego, and that is what this state is. Dukkhanasho bhavatyana. So for now, we will stop here. Any questions, you are welcome to ask.
Namaste, Swamiji. Vedanta Vichara, would you say that Vedanta Vichara is essentially Shravana Manana Nididhyasana only, and the other two that you mentioned are Antaranga and Bahiranga are kind of preparatory stages?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If we have to be very, very specific, Vedanta Artha Vichara is actually contemplation on listening, reflecting contemplation on the Mahavakya. So right now, what we are doing, suppose we are studying Vivek Chudamani and we have been reading different aspects of Sadhan Chatushtay and the Shishya's condition and then what the Guru should do. All this, very broadly we say Vivek Chudamani is a book of Vedanta, no doubt. But right now what we are doing is also in the preparatory step only. It is not Sakshat Sadhan. It is not Paramantaranga Sadhan because we are not contemplating on Mahavakya. We are not listening or reflecting on the statement which reveals the identity of Jiva and Brahma. So from technical standpoint, Shravan is the Shravan of Mahavakya. And then Manan and Nididhyasan on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so for now we will stop here and continue in July. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.